Well, it has been a very consequential 24 hours for Donald Trump, for the Justice Department, for the January 6th committee. We have so many pieces of breaking news to talk about, and I want to start first and foremost with a federal judge's opinion that Donald Trump likely committed multiple felonies in trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, we're going to talk about what this means and what it doesn't mean. And many of you correctly writing to me and saying, David, wait, a judge determines whether Trump is guilty? Doesn't a jury do that? This is not a determination of criminality for the purposes of punishment. Donald Trump has not been charged. The context here is evidence. And does there appear to be a legitimate reason to turn over certain records on the basis that it seems reasonable that Donald Trump committed crimes and thus the evidence is legitimate to be looked at by investigators? And we're going to talk about that, and we have some very specific comments about this from legal experts. Let's start with the New York Times article. Federal judge finds Trump most likely committed crimes over the 2020 election. The judge wrote, in a civil case, the illegality of the plan was obvious. Separately, the January 6th panel voted to recommend contempt of Congress charges for two former Trump aides. This article is worth reading in its entirety. The important points here: a federal judge ruled yesterday that Trump and a lawyer who advised him on how to overturn the 2020 election most likely had committed felonies, including obstructing the work of Congress and conspiring to defraud the United States. The judge's comments on the civil case of the lawyer John Eastman marked a significant breakthrough for the House committee investigating the riots. The committee is weighing making a criminal referral to the Justice Department, had used a filing in the case to lay out the crimes it believed Trump might have committed. Importantly, Trump has not been charged with any crime. The judge's ruling has no immediate practical legal effect on him, but it ratifies the committee's argument that Trump's efforts to block Congress from certifying Biden's win could well rise to the level of a criminal conspiracy. We can't let this be normalized. It is outrageous that this is what is going on. Judge David Carter wrote, quote, "The illegality of the plan was obvious. Our nation was founded on the peaceful transition of power, epitomized by George Washington laying down his sword to make way for democratic elections. Ignoring this history, President Trump vigorously campaigned for the vice president to single-handedly determine the result of the 2020 election." So what are our questions here? Well, the first question is, does this finally give the Attorney General Merrick Garland a way to move forward with the criminal charges? And the answer is it probably does, but he probably won't. Now, what's really important to understand here is, what does this mean? This is not a judge ruling that a crime was committed. That's for a jury to do if charges are brought. But I asked former FBI special agent, who's now a lawyer, Asha Rangappa, she teaches at Yale Law School. I asked her about this on Twitter, and she explained very clearly, quote, "The judge's opinion isn't itself evidence of a crime. It's an evaluation of some of the evidence, which is the grand jury's job." I'd say at most it suggests that a grand jury would be able to independently find probable cause to charge, but the problem is proving it beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. Asha went on to add, "The judge may have just been stating what was obvious from the evidence, but no doubt it's a major flag that this had better be an active Department of Justice investigation, dereliction of duty if it is not." So this is the main point, and we've been talking about this for some time. I don't think anybody is arguing, or let me put it a different way. Due process holds that one is innocent until proven guilty. And due process holds that we can't say someone should be punished for a crime until they've been found guilty of a crime. And right now, Donald Trump has not even been charged. So the right loves to say they're all about law and order, but they will immediately suspend due process when they want someone, quote, locked up. Think Hillary Clinton. We're not going to do that. We're going to stick to due process. But what is abundantly clear at this point is we have endless opinions, including now from a federal judge, that it's at least quite plausible that felonies have been committed. And so what does that mean? It doesn't mean you throw someone in jail before getting a guilty verdict, but it does mean there should be an active investigation. And Asha Rangappa is completely correct about that. So this ruling affects a very specific part of the process of investigation. It relates to a civil case. It's not time for jail. We're not saying lock anybody up. It's the right that loves to do that by skipping due process. But what we are saying is if there's no investigation going on right now, it raises some major, major questions that we need to have answered. And unfortunately, what we saw in Manhattan is very similar to this. Remember that Mark Pomerantz and another prosecutor investigating Trump criminally in Manhattan resigned. And initially, many on the right were saying they resigned because they knew that it was all bogus and there was nothing to investigate. No, we speculated, and it's since been confirmed, they resigned because they actually thought, wow, Trump did commit crimes, and it doesn't seem there's any interest in actually charging him. And so our work is essentially being done for nothing. We found evidence of criminality. Nobody's interested in charging the guy. I'm out of here. That's what happened. So we're seeing the same story. Federal judge, civil case, Manhattan investigators, everybody coming to the conclusion felonies were probably committed here. Will he be charged? I'm not particularly optimistic. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.